and welcome back to Eye on Cancer. In our last segment, we were talking about screening, which is very valuable, and I like to share, I did some genetic screening. I had actually the same test that Angelina Jolie had, and fortunately for me, mine came up negative, and what they explained to me is that then my female descendants, excuse me, I said that backward, will not inherit that gene. And so of all the hundreds of thousands of genes that we have in our bodies, my girls, my daughters and my granddaughters will not inherit that. And so the BRCA1 and 2, the BRCA tests, those are available to everyone. And what is your take on that type of testing?
Well, these are, I think it's definitely a progress towards where we can identify genes and counsel patients on it. Whenever something like that happens, we are all interested in, is it my genes? Is it the environment? We want to find the reason for cancer, or to what causes it. So there's more than one causation factor to it. Both genetics and environment will play a role. These are only 2 genes that we have identified, but it proves an important principle that we can do these with other cancers too. And so so once you take the research to this level, it becomes a little bit easier for cracking the code, so to say, for other cancers. So to put things into perspective, about 3% of Caucasian population will have these in general population of women, and about 3.5% in Hispanic population, about 1.5% in African Americans, and it's 0.5% in Asians. It's about 10% in Ashkenazi Jewish families. That's how these genes were discovered. And both genes carry a lifetime risk. Lifetime risk is calculated up to age 70. Is that a woman with either of these genes will have about 50 to 70% chance of developing breast cancer by age 70. And one of them is also related to ovarian cancer. So these are actionable things to do. So although the percentage in general population is very little, contrary to popular belief, because once you have something like that, the immediate connotation is that I didn't have it in my family, so I can't get it because I don't have the genes. So you can see that only 3% of the general population will have that, with Caucasians being the predominant population. So it's a very little number, but it will make a meaningful difference in the life of a woman who has these and can have the option of discussing it, depending upon their preferences. So some women will choose to have bilateral mastectomies, that's removal of both the breasts and or the ovaries. It does, and then it open up discovery of similar genes in other cancers.
Well, it's always best to be able to make educated decisions. After the fact, I found out that I did not have the gene, but I still had the cancer. And so it's like we mentioned before, for as much as we know, there's a lot that we don't know. But
yes, because these are only 2 genes.
Right.
I'm sure there are more genes at work which we don't know about yet.
And speaking of, we have a question from Amber G. What causes cervical cancer?
Most of the cervical cancers are caused by a virus called the human papillomavirus that you can get most frequently by having a sexual contact with a person who has it. So the risk of cervical cancer increases if you have more than one sexual partners. And typically, the rates of cervical cancer have fallen down between 1955 to 1980s about 70%.
Oh, that's good.
Because of the detection of the pap test, which is recommended on a yearly basis, roughly starting at age 18 to 20. And then women continue to have the risk in their 60s. So 20% are diagnosed in women over 65. And that can now detect the actual viruses that cause them. So if you have any changes, then they can tell if you have the virus, it's going to be a high risk. So your gynecologist or your regular doctor, whoever is doing the pap test, may have you come back sooner than a year to take another sample. But the pap tests are the key for early detection.
Right, and early detection is the key to still being alive after...
I agree.
Well, it is, that has been the case for me. And many men and women that I speak to have had the same good fortune to be able to have found it early enough to do something to save their lives, me included. And I can't say enough about your self breast exams. That's how I find mine. And the screenings, discussing it with your doctors, and just talking about it, perhaps with relatives that have had it, and finding it early, and having the ability to make your educated decisions, asking the questions, getting the answers, and finding out what is available to you.
Sure, and remember that nobody else should be or is interested in your health more than you are. Neither the government, nor your doctor, nor your relatives or friends.
Precisely.
You are the one who are responsible for your own health, so you have to get interested.
Absolutely. And as far as causes, there are probably millions of them, millions of causes in everyday life. And so just finding the answers. And we will have some more answers when we come back. Stay tuned.